No?
No.
Fart breather? We had so many good ones, and then you had fart breather.
Okay, you know what? It gets rid of onion smells, man.
What did that have to do with onions? It's like, oh man, my house smells like onions. I want to smell my own farts. Stupid. Just stupid.
You know what?
What?
It doesn't matter.
I think a cross-examination was clever. Maybe.
How about a
you
gun?
Jesus.
How about
just a normal gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes a...
And then you got fart breathing.
Man.
Me.
Who else would have thought of it, though? Nobody. Nobody saw it coming. Your desk is so dirty.
Ass. I wrote ass on my desk out of the dust. It's so dusty.
That's ass dirty.
And I cleaned it like a few days ago.
Yeah. Trust me, I know how it is. Like,
you know how it is.
I only had 2 dogs in my house when I made my
Try
computer.
5.
Huh?
Try 5.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's insane.
And speaking of insane, let's play Higurashi.
Welcome back,
When
everybody.
they cry kai. Meakashi. May of course she.
Did you... What happened in the last episode? I don't remember.
Punishment.
Oh, right, the punishment.
Disappearance.
And then...
Confusion.
Confusion.
Convulsions.
Whoa.
Confusions and convulsions. Continue. Hide the mouse.
In our face.
Let's go. What did you just say? This is information from a reliable source. It appears that they found the murderer of Satoshi-kun's aunt. Oh, we're getting here now. So soon. It had been a few weeks since the murder. Satoshi-kun still hadn't been found. I had no new information on his whereabouts. Kaisai's report came as a result completely out of the blue. Does that mean the police arrested the culprit? It seems that he confessed during his interrogation regarding another case. That sounded strange. If it was Satoshi-kun they arrested, he wouldn't have worded it that way. It sounded as though Satoshi-kun wasn't the culprit. Kasai, who's the culprit? So it wasn't Satoshi-kun? I swallowed those final words. I was convinced that it was Satoshi-kun. The police and Oishi must have thought the same way. The reason Oishi approached me is because he was convinced that Satoshi-kun did it. Don't worry. Doesn't seem like it's Satoshi-kun. I heard it was a lunatic who was aiming to continue the series of mysterious deaths. What? A lunatic? What do you mean? Kasai shrugged. I don't know. Since the investigation is classified as a confidential case, the information I can get is limited. Confidential? Why? To prevent the village from developing a bad reputation. You don't see articles about kidnapping while the police are negotiating with the culprit, do you? It's something similar to that. Come to think of it, I hadn't seen anything about the aunt's murder on TV or in the newspaper. These strange deaths have happened 4 years in a row now on the day of Watanagashi. There are those who try to make light of it. And now this lunatic who confessed the aunt's murder said he did it in imitation of the series of mysterious deaths. Kasai didn't know anything else, so instead of probing him further, I reviewed the information myself. I was really shocked to learn all this. I was convinced that Satoshi-kun killed her. I thought that was the reason he had to disappear. But it was actually some lunatic who killed her, and he had no relation to the aunts whatsoever. So, Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with the murder? If so, why did he disappear? I couldn't accept that this lunatic had killed the aunt, and what's really strange is the phrase Kasai used, 4 years in a row now. After all, I'd been thinking that this murder happened because Satoshi-kun had been in a dire situation, and had nothing to do with the series of mysterious deaths. I felt as though Satoshi-kun's case had become somebody else's. The series of mysterious deaths in Anamizawa is also known as the Curse of Oishiro-sama. Satoshi-kun's case had become one of those mysterious deaths. In other words, Satoshi-kun's case has become a part of Oshiro-sama's curse. I didn't like the way that sounded, because it was as though the curse had swallowed Satoshi-kun. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to confirm the tip that Satoshi-kun took a train to Tokyo. We don't even know whether or not he's in the prefecture, to be honest. I wish you broke the seal on a new can of instant coffee. I thought you knew his whereabouts already, since you seemed very convinced he was the culprit. You got me. At least he chuckled and poured a cup of coffee, which looked far too hot. You have some good sources. Huh? It's a highly classified case, but you already have this information. I wonder who leaked it. Looks like we need to review our security precautions. I wish he smirked. Seemed he knew why I was here today. I'm one of the Sonozakis after all, and my ears are open. I smirked back at him. It's all about bluffing. Anyway, since we're friends now, why don't we have a chat? Let me ask you first. Who's this real culprit? I heard he was a lunatic, but what does that mean? I don't know how to answer that question. I want to know the answer myself. Really, I was convinced Satoshi-kun was the real culprit. It was rather surprising for me, too. I wish he threw himself on the sofa and crossed his hands behind his head. He looked at the ceiling and smiled wryly. I suddenly received a call from the prefectural police the other day. They said that one of the guys in detention confessed to the murder of the housewife. Who is it? He's a real piece of work who fell into a drug habit. He's been in and out of prison for drug abuse. His statement says that he was interested in the series of mysterious deaths and wanted to imitate them. Are you sure he's the real culprit? I didn't interrogate him myself, but the prefectural police tells me that he has information that only the real culprit would know. Seems to have thrown the murder weapon into the Oji River. They're searching for it right now. If it's found, his statement will be solid. Even if the weapon wasn't found, would the case be closed? Probably. His statement clearly outlines the state of the crime scene and the body. This information, like I said, covers details that only the actual murderer would know. You don't seem quite convinced. Oishi, still looking up at the ceiling, went quiet. As a matter of fact, Moron was already dead by the time I got their call. Dead? You know those spoons that are forked at the tip? They use those at the detention facility. I was told that he swallowed one and choked on it. They couldn't tell if it was a suicide or caused by some mental disorder. I imagine somebody's swallowing that spoon and gagged. So the investigation hadn't been done that thoroughly. But although I'm not convinced, my superiors are. I think with that, the case will be closed. Oishi turned his eyes from the ceiling to me. He looked serious. This is just what I personally feel, okay? So please keep it between the two of us. I believe that this moron is some kind of mistake. It might be either a big misunderstanding caused by a chain of coincidences, or, you know. I have no idea what you're talking about. I still believe that the real culprit is Satoshi Hojo-kun. You sound so confident. Unfortunately, we couldn't find anything to prove he was at the crime scene. We obtained a warrant to search his house after he disappeared, but we still found nothing. But you still believe he did it? Yes. I wonder how you can be so sure even though you don't have any evidence. It's incredible. Is that supposed to be like the hunch of an experienced detective? Yep. It's the hunch of a guy who's been in this business for several decades. I wish he smiled in satisfaction, but I didn't feel relieved. Where does Satoshi-kun go? His disappearance convinced me that he was the culprit. If he wasn't the culprit, there'd be no real reason for him to disappear. What if the murder actually was done by that copycat and Satoshi-kun's disappearance has nothing to do with it? In other words, what if Satoshi-kun disappeared because the Sonozaki family didn't like my relationship with him, and he has nothing to do with the murder? Was Satoshi-kun a culprit or a victim? The reason for his disappearance had become unclear. I don't think they'd bother to make one person disappear just because of an undesirable relationship. What do you hear from the inside of the Sonozaki family? Do you know anything? I wouldn't be here if I did. You're right. I wish he laughed out loud while scratching his head. After he stopped laughing, he leaned over. Alright, how about this? Why don't we make a deal? A gentleman's deal. A deal? On what? On information about Satoshi-kun's disappearance. If you find any information like that, you tell me. And I'll also provide you with the information if I find any. Do we have a deal? That sounds too convenient for you. Oh, she chuckled. Shion-san. I think if we leave things as they are, they'll conclude that the moron committed the murder. If that happens, Satoshi-kun's disappearance will be treated as just another runaway minor. They won't search for him as actively as before. But I will continue searching for him. Only I will do it. I believe you're intending to do the same. Our motives are different, though. I just want to know if he's safe, but you'd like to arrest him, wouldn't you? If the murder case was considered solved, Satoshi-kun would be free, regardless of his innocence. I doubt that. Oishi chuckled again, but his smile didn't reach his eye. Well, let's be friends from now on. The enemy of your enemy is your friend, no? I'm not opposed to the Sonozaki family, though. Oh, really? I apologize, then. This is the way of Kura Udo Oishi, isn't it? Huh. As Sis and Kasai said, I wouldn't want him as my enemy or my ally, because both would be too risky. I probably shouldn't let my guard down in front of this big fat weasel. I sipped on the coffee to fill up the silence, though I wasn't thirsty. Outside the window, I could see normal life taking its course. But Satoshi-kun wasn't there. He should have been there, but he wasn't. I was scared that I might grow used to his absence someday. Where was he? I wonder how Satoshi-kun's doing. I hope he's alright. I know you think he might be dead. Don't patronize me. Do you know what happened? Do you know what people are calling his disappearance in Anamizawa? Huh? They say that he was demoned away. To be demoned away means the same thing as being spirited away. It's part of the local dialect. He was kidnapped and taken to hell through the bottom of the Ongafuchi swamp? That's ridiculous! Anyway, the series of mysterious deaths was struck for the 4th time. It's due soon, but people are already talking about next year. Are you saying that the murder was the result of Oishiro-sama's curse? The victim was one of the Hojos after all. She was involved in the dam conflict, though indirectly. Really, it's not surprising that some people take an interest in the incidents, because they do always happen on the day of Watsunegashi. That's ridiculous too. Oishiro-sama's curse? Though I said that, I couldn't quite wipe away the fear from my mind. Why did Satoshi-kun disappear? Was it the Sonozaki family? Did he run away from the police? Did he really kill his aunt in the first place? Why did he even disappear? He's on his own. Oishiro-sama's curse has nothing to do with it. But... That's strange. Satoshi-kun and Oishiro-sama's curse. Somebody once mentioned those two together before. When did I hear that?
Reina.
Ah, that's right. That rainy day. It was Reina Ryugu who told me that, when we were taking shelter in that shack. Ah! I remember the creepy story that she told me at the time.
Satoshi-kun wants to leave Anamizawa and run far away, even if only unconsciously.
That's what Reina Ryugu said. Reina had definitely pointed out that Satoshi-kun wanted to leave Hinamizawa at that time. She also said,
Everything he's going through is a sign of Oishiro-sama's curse.
She said that, for sure. She had definitely mentioned Oishiro-sama's curse. The series of mysterious deaths that has struck 4 times. Was Satoshi-kun being controlled by the curse? Is that why he killed his aunt and was demoned away? No way. That can't be true. Satoshi-kun's smile faded away in my mind. Satoshi-kun disappeared. Not only that, the reason for his disappearance also disappeared. It must have been done by a human being. I can't accept that he was demoned away. So many questions in an answer arc.
Right? But the first answer arc can't give us all of the answers, right?
I guess. I moved from one chair to another because the air conditioning was too cold. I moved with my notebook, my pen case with a bunch of keychains, and my cup of milk tea. I did it all in one go. I sat down in a new chair, then opened my notebook again. I scribbled my thoughts and sank into silence. A series of mysterious deaths. Dubbed the Curse of Oyashiro-sama. I've been viewing each incident as a separate case, even though it was followed by one another. I've never looked at all the cases as part of one big scheme. After I wrote down all the incidents on paper, it became clear to me that all of them served the same agenda. I wrote down the victims. The first year, the construction site manager. The second year, Satoshi-kun's parents. The third year, the priest. The fourth year, Satoshi-kun's aunt. For the fourth year, one could consider Satoshi-kun himself to be the victim rather than his aunt. If I consider that each case arose from the grudge over the dam conflict, it's quite simple. In the first year, the construction manager was killed because he was a symbol of the dam construction itself. Of course, the real enemy was the Ministry of Construction, but it wasn't as clear a target. That manager, on the other hand, had been aggressively shouting back at the villagers, so he was a more appropriate enemy to attack. If Oishiro-sama had really cursed someone, it would have been the officials from the ministry. It's apparent that the target was selected based on the villagers' preference. The second year, the accidental death of Satoshi-kun's parents. It's said that they fell from a cliff in some park, but it's doubtful that it was really an accident. His parents were labeled as traitors to the village because they sided with the dam construction, even though they were also from Inamizawa. The Hojo family was ostracized during the dam conflict in order to prevent further pro-dam activists from rising up. That means that the Hojos were necessary during the conflict to play a role of the traitor. So when the conflict was over, they no longer served any purpose. The construction site manager was a symbol of the external enemy. The Hojos were a symbol of the internal enemy. Those people fell victim to the curse, and it seemed that the grudge over the dam conflict had ended. Yet those incidents were followed by another one. The third year, the leader of one of the 3 families, the priest Furude, suddenly died of an illness with an unknown cause. His wife drowned herself on the same night. She seemed to have left a note that said she was sacrificing herself to pacify Oishiro-sama's anger. Whether it was a fatal disease or suicide, their deaths looked suspicious. Mion admitted that the Sonozaki family didn't like the priest's attitude. They didn't like how the priest had been generous towards the pro-dam activists. The priest wasn't quite a traitor, but he was certainly uncooperative. Looking at these incidents, I realized that the curse was performed based on the degree of hostility. Enemy, traitor, and dissident. This meant that the curse was actually payment. It was a punishment for the criminals of war. In the fourth year, I didn't understand this case at first, to be honest. At first I believed that this case was separate from the other ones, even though it occurred on the same day. I never thought that there would be any relation to the other 3. But when I wrote it down and looked at it objectively, the victim is a relative of a traitor. After enemy, traitor, and dissident, relative of a traitor doesn't sound too odd. It comes naturally as a 4th target. On the day the villagers worshipped Oshiro-sama, their guardian deity, the criminals of the dam conflict had been punished by the cursed. Just like how I was forced to pay at the Sonozaki house, the criminals were made to pay as well. After writing these things out, I started thinking that the 4th incident might be in line with this series of mysterious deaths after all. Whether it was Satoshi-kun or the dope head, it seemed that they were forced to play the role of a murderer as a part of a bigger scenario. Even if Satoshi-kun was the real culprit, even if he killed his aunt because of an ordinary grudge, the murder seems synchronized with the grand scheme of the series of mysterious deaths in Anamizawa, which is a payment plan for the war criminals. That murder was the result of his pain. But what if somebody planned that as part of a scenario? For instance, somebody might have suggested to him to kill his aunt on that day. That night at that place. I had no doubts that Satoshi-kun decided to kill her in order to protect Sakutoko. But did he really reach that conclusion on his own? Satoshi-kun was optimistic and somewhat detached as far as I know. Would he really have considered murdering his aunt even if it was to protect his sister? Couldn't it be possible for somebody to have chosen the aunt as the fourth year's murder beforehand? And they used Satoshi-kun? And Satoshi-kun was eliminated because of his connection with them? Looking at it that way, the murder of the first year resembles this case. The main culprit behind the case hasn't been found yet, dead or alive. The other culprits testified that their fight had turned into a slaughter. But wouldn't it be possible that the main culprit had manipulated the situation? What if he had been told to kill someone that day, at that time, and in that place? I'm certain. The first murder resembles Satoshi-kun's case very much. So, did that mean Satoshi-kun was being controlled by somebody else? Oishi had presented me with a hypothesis that the Sonozaki family made Satoshi-kun disappear in order to end my relationship with a murderer. But when I read the notes I wrote down, his disappearance didn't seem too spontaneous. It seemed like a bigger part of a bigger plan. Since I'd unexpectedly gotten involved in that plan, I had to be separated from him. Then Satoshi-kun was demoned away as planned. At first, I also believed that the Sonozaki family made him disappear because they didn't like that I was in love with a member of the family of traitors. But something didn't add up. Something felt strange. I wasn't the reason for his disappearance, after all. Even if I never met him in the first place, Satoshi-kun was supposed to kill his aunt on June 1982 and then disappear. At one point, I'd been thinking of taking revenge on the hag. I'd believed that she separated us. But what if my relationship with Satoshi-kun had nothing to do with his disappearance? What would that mean? Who made Satoshi-kun disappear? I need to understand the series of mysterious deaths in order to solve this mystery. What did all these deaths mean? Who was behind them and what purpose did they serve? I wanted to know the purpose, the motive, and who was responsible. Who took Satoshi-kun? I wanted to know if he was still alive. The series of mysterious deaths in Anamizawa is also called Oyashiro-sama's curse. What is the curse? Specifically, what kind of god is Oyashiro-sama? What blessings does he bring and what punishment does he dole out? I wrote down my thoughts in the notebook. What's Oyashiro-sama? What is he? I scribbled these things down. I was so absorbed by it that I didn't realize somebody had been standing behind me, watching me, the whole time. I couldn't stop myself from gasping when I realized that. I'm sorry. Did I startle you? The intelligent-looking woman giggled. No. I was just a bit surprised. Sorry about that. She could have apologized a little better, too, since she'd been watching me from behind. But she just stared at my face instead. Are you Shion Sonozaki-san? You must know since you know my name, but I don't know who you are. Being twins is a pain sometimes. People you've never met before can tell exactly who you are. I'm sorry. The Sonozaki-san I know would never be seen in a library, so I assumed that you were her twin sister. The woman giggled again. Well, you were right. I'm Shion Sonozaki. Nice to meet you. May I ask your name? Oh, I'm sorry. I should have introduced myself first. She seemed to love her own hair because she kept running her fingers through it boastfully. I'm Mio Takano. You can call me Mio, Shion-chan. Nice to meet you, Takano-san. Her condescending attitude bugged me. I hate meeting people like that. I closed my notebook and got ready to leave the desk. Oh, are you upset? Thank you for your concern. I like to be alone when thinking, so I'm moving to another spot. Excuse me. That's a shame. I thought we'd be good friends. Did you? I don't think so. I finally met someone with the same passion. A fellow researcher of Oyoshiro-sama's curse. I think it's quite unusual to meet someone like that. She saw my notes! My face reddened. These are just theories. It's all nonsense. Just childish scribbles. A series of mysterious deaths is also known as Oyoshiro-sama's curse. Though each death is an independent incident, all of them clearly share the same purpose. Each year, someone dies of the curse, and someone else is sacrificed and disappears. What? What are you saying all of a sudden? Someone dies and someone else... What? I was taken aback by her weird spiel, but I realized right away that she said something extraordinary. Didn't you notice that the number of victims is always even? Haven't you realized that yet? The number of victims is always even? I was confused, but I tried to figure out what that meant. The damn construction site manager died in the first year. There was only one victim. In the second year, the victims were the parents of Satoshi-kun, so it was 2 people. In the third year, it was the priest, and if her death was also planned, his wife, 2 again. And in this year, the 4th year, Satoshi-kun's aunt died and Satoshi-kun went missing. If Satoshi-kun's disappearance was planned, the number of victims was 2. It's true. Except for the first one, the victims always came in an even number, 2. Wait. I just concluded myself that the first case resembled the 4th one. The main culprit was still missing. He might have been demoned away, just like Satoshi-kun. See? Doesn't it make sense now? Takano-san sounded like a teacher who had showed me how to solve a difficult math problem. I wasn't quite convinced, but I couldn't deny what she'd said either. Did I give you enough hints? I really would have enjoyed a conversation with you, but I think you prefer being alone. I'm sorry that I wasn't respectful, Mio-san. Please call me Shion. She seemed content that I changed my attitude. She kept giggling for a while. She didn't seem that reliable. I didn't want to be acquainted with her for too long. But I don't get to talk to people very much. And what she said interested me. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Mio Takano. Call me Mio. Pleased to meet you, Mio-san. I'm Shio Sonozaki, Mion's twin sister. Please call me Shion. I took the hand that Mio-san held out as a sign of reconciliation. Please, tell me more. You said that there are always 2 victims? One dies due to the curse and the other is a sacrifice? Shion-chan, before we get into that, could you tell me why you became interested in this? She leaned over and looked into my eyes. It was kind of uncomfortable. Mio-san, how much do you know about me? I guess you have an idea if you know my name. I don't know much. Just that you recently returned from a boarding school. I see. So, I think you can imagine that I want to know about the series of mysterious deaths that happened while I was away. I'm just curious. I see. You're curious, eh? I got the impression that she knew about what happened to Satoshi-kun and me, because she instantly recognized me as Shion, not Mio. I didn't know why I thought that way, as she shouldn't have access to the sources that, for instance, Oishi does. It was just the look in her eyes that made me think that way. Let me ask you a question this time. You called me a fellow researcher of Oyoshiro-sama's curse, didn't you? So why are you researching the curse? You also stated that there's also always an even number of victims in the mysterious deaths. It's true that Hanamizawa's mysterious deaths are always called Oyoshiro-sama's curse. But why would you delve into the mysterious deaths if you're researching the curse itself? Shion-chan, you're asking too many questions at once. I can't tell what you really want to know. Oof. I couldn't say anything in return. Maybe I'd been too inquisitive. I'll answer your questions one by one. I'm not just researching the curse, as my subject is much broader than that. I'm researching the history of Onikafuchi Village. In plain terms, I'm researching the dark and ancient history of Hanamizawa. Onikafuchi Village? Isn't Onikafuchi the bottomless swamp some people believe is connected to hell? And what dark history? I kept asking questions. Mio-san, however, looked pleased to hear them. Onikafuchi Village is the old name for Hanamizawa, as it was known back before the Meiji era. About the dark history. You know a little bit about the man-eating demons, I'm assuming. Ah, the man-eating demons, huh? That was a fairy tale told in Hanamizawa. A long time ago, demons came out of the swamp, and while the villagers battled with them, they ended up living peacefully together. The villagers transcended and became a sacred people having demon blood in their veins. That long-forgotten fairy tale came back to my mind vividly. You know this story because you're a villager, of course. But what about the story of the cannibal banquet? Eh?
What?
What's that? You know the villagers have the blood of man-eating demons in their veins, don't you? Yeah, I think I've heard of it. I dodged the question. Hanamizawa used to be a desolate village, but it grew in prominence after the Second World War and expanded its influence to Okinomiya and other areas. People who disliked and discriminated against the villagers called us man-eating demons. I remember that. The young villagers don't take it seriously, but the older people can get seriously upset about it. They certainly can't take it as a joke. So the term man-eating demons is forbidden. We normally never use it. Even during my rebellious phase, I never spoke those words. Mio-san, however, seemed to have no qualms with saying it out loud. Are you upset? About what? I know people hate that phrase in Hanamizawa. I apologize if I made you feel uncomfortable. The old people wouldn't like it, but I'm fine. Would you continue? Thanks. Okay, so... the ancient villagers had a custom of cannibalism. They ritualized this custom and held various ceremonies based around it. The festival we hold in June isn't just an early summer festival. It used to be a banquet in which the villagers chased after a sacrifice and ate them. They bound the sacrifice to a table, gutted them, and dumped the organs into a river. Wara can mean cotton, but it also means organs. That's the root of the word Watanagashi. Organ drifting. Watanagashi. Indeed. I believe they started using futon mats to cover it all up around the Meiji era, according to my research. They wouldn't be able to do that openly nowadays. Everything Mio-san was talking about sounded startling. I was just taken aback. I couldn't wholly believe it right away. She sensed that from my expression. It's not a hoax. I didn't make any of this up. If you promise not to tell anyone, I can show you my notes on Watanagashi. Mio-san took out a notebook from her bag and flipped through it. She appeared to be doing her research thoroughly. Thank you. I'd love to read it. Sure. I'd like to keep it confidential. But I guess I should share it with my fellow researcher. Mio-san handed me the notebook a bit hesitantly. It looked like it'd taken a whole night to finish reading. It was densely packed with information. I saw copies of various documents and quotes in there too. It wasn't just some delusion of hers. You told me that one person dies because of the curse and another person is sacrificed and disappears, right? The person is sacrificed and disappears. Sochikun had gone missing. Did he become a sacrifice? What is a sacrifice anyway? Mio-san looked pleased to hear my questions again. She took out another notebook and handed it to me. I think you'll understand once you read it, but I'll give you a digest version. Oyashiro-sama's curse is simply Oyashiro-sama's anger. In other words, the curse is caused by Oyashiro-sama's anger. Do you follow? Yes. You're saying that Oyashiro-sama was mad at the people who opposed the village during the dam conflict, and that's why the curse occurred. That's right. Oyashiro-sama's anger has to be pacified. If not, something even worse will occur. So, all the successive priests at the Furude Shrine had to perform a sacrifice every time the curse struck in order to pacify Oyashiro-sama. It's called the sacrificial ritual. So, each year on the day of Watanagashi, one person dies because of the curse, and another one is sacrificed to pacify Oyashiro-sama's anger. But only one person is actually murdered each time. I've never heard of human sacrifices being made. Naturally, there's no body. The ritual of sacrifice requires the offering being sunk into Onikafuji Swamp. That swamp is bottomless, and no one would ever surface once they were thrown in there. No body would never be found, of course. So, one of the victims is always thrown into the swamp every year. Does that mean Satoshi-kun is also at the bottom of the dark green swamp? I don't know. I'm not sure they'd really throw them into the swamp. But those who make these incidents happen must be eliminating one person based on that legend. Each year, a traitor to the village dies on the day of the Watanagashi because of Oshiro-sama's curse. And another person is sacrificed in order to pacify Oshiro-sama's anger. That person's body will never be found because he or she is supposedly thrown into the bottomless swamp. Yes, you get it. The series of mysterious deaths always involves both the curse and the sacrifice. It's a system that allows 2 traitors to die every year. What I'm telling you now probably isn't sufficient, so it might be hard to grasp. Instead, I want you to take the time to read my notes. You'll see that what I'm telling you isn't far from the truth at all. I heard a man's voice just then. A middle-aged man with a hat was waving at Mio-san from the entrance. Sorry, I think I have to go. Wanted to talk to you more, but I guess we'll have another chance to chat. I'll leave those notes to you. I'm looking forward to hearing your opinions. Mio-san wrapped up the conversation and headed toward where the man was waiting for her. She left her old notebooks in my hands. Mio-san waved at me as she left the library with her companion. I took a seat again and opened what she'd given me. What bugged me was the series of mysterious deaths, also known as the Curse of Oshiro-sama. Maybe I'd be able to get close to the truth by reading these notebooks. If I studied them carefully, I might be able to find out who was really behind the incidents. Why did Satoshi-kun have to disappear? What was he involved in? How did that happen? Maybe Takano's notes would bring me the answer. Research notes. Mio Takano. I started flipping the pages, this time making sure there was no one watching over my shoulder.
Oh man, she's reading them all day.
It was time for the library to close. I had to leave. I bought some food on my way home. I shut my door and locked it right away. Then I heard the door of the neighboring apartment open. Kasai lived next door. Nobody else lived on this floor of the nearly empty apartment building anyway. I clearly heard the door open and close. Kasai must have noticed that I came home and was coming over because he wanted to talk to me. I unlocked the door and shouted out to him. Is that you, Kasai? I'll leave the door unlocked for you. I'm not Kasai-san, Shion. That voice. I twitched. Can I come in? Sure, sis. The door slowly opened. My alter ego, Mion Sonozaki, appeared. She was holding a box of cake, while smiling timidly. Are you going to keep standing there until I escort you? Come in. Sorry, this room doesn't look very cute. It looks comfortable. Sis looked a bit tense when entering my room. It was her first time here. How's life? My new school is as boring as I thought it would be. I usually go, but I skip classes when I don't feel up to it. I couldn't do that when I was going to St. Lucia's. So St. Lucia's was really tough, huh? Huh, you should go there sometime. Sorry. I brought cake. Let's eat. Mion opened the box. I saw 2 cheesecakes there. We have the same taste in food, so we don't have to fight if we get 2 of the same thing. I chatted with her over the cheesecake. I talked to her about school and whatnot. If you need furniture, tell me. I might be able to get some for you. I finally got used to this room, but I might move out soon. So furniture won't be necessary. Thanks, though. Dad wants me to come back home. I don't want to live with him, but he sounds desperate. He'd be pleased if you came home. He looked lonely while you were gone. Huh. You can only say that because you don't have to live with him. Come to think of it, this was the first time I'd talked to Sis since I was allowed to live as Shion Sonozaki. She didn't look like how she was at the Sonozaki house that day. The successor of the Sonozaki family and my twin sister are two different people. The demon lives inside the leader of the Sonozakis. Our bodies are exactly the same except for the tattoo of a demon on her back. Mion's destiny as the successor was set in stone when she got that tattoo. It's pretty simple. Mion from that night was different from the Mion before me. When I was forced to tear off my fingernails, I momentarily despised her. But if I were the next leader of the family, I'd have done the same. Shion, how are your fingernails? The wounds have closed. I don't bandage them anymore because it looks too conspicuous. But my nails still look ugly, so I don't really like showing them to people. I sneered at her, displaying my incomplete fingernails. Mion grew quiet and looked down. You don't have to apologize. You did what you had to do. You just played the role of the successor. I'm not holding any grudges. I'm sorry. Okay, apology accepted. But if you apologize one more time, that'll be canceled. I won't forgive you for the rest of my life. Huh? What do you mean? Once you start apologizing, you never stop. So I'm cutting you off. Will you really forgive me? About Satoshi-kun as well? My heart ached when she mentioned his name. It felt just like the ache of an old wound. I figured you loved him. No wonder I shouted out loud in front of all of you. I'm not embarrassed anymore. Granny truly believes you've atoned. She thinks you've done all you needed to do. So the matter is finished. That's good. My paint won't go to waste then. I wonder where Satoshi-kun disappeared to, though. I started choking when I heard her say that. I just said it to her myself. I said that I'd forgiven her completely, but that promise instantly evaporated. Just because of what she said, I felt like I'd turned into a completely different person. What did you just say, Mion? Did you say, I wonder where Satoshi-kun disappeared to? Who else could have known other than you and your folks? What did you say? Where did he go? I felt my eyeballs reddening in anger. I felt as though they were about to pop. I choked on a burning sensation in my throat. Mion's expression rapidly changed. It looked like she noticed the devil's mask on my face. We were one and the same. We could understand each other's thoughts without voicing them. So showing our expressions was like unveiling everything in our hearts to the other. Sorry? Even though I told her not to apologize anymore, Mion apologized. Felt like strangling her. I was gonna make her confess where she hid Satoshi-kun. If she told me she threw him into the Onikafuchi swamp, I'd strangle her to death right then and there. I really don't know what happened to Satoshi-kun. That's a lie. It's true. Granny doesn't know either. Please believe me. That's a lie. Are you saying that Oyashiro-sama's curse demoned him away? There can't be a curse. There can't be! Words kept coming out of my mouth like I was chanting a spell. I wasn't speaking by my own will anymore. It was the demon who was controlling me. The demon that'd been sleeping deep inside me woke up and was speaking through my mouth. My hands, the demon's hands grabbed Mion by the neck. You guys demon Satoshi-kun away! You and the Sonozaki family! Give him back to me! Give him back! My hand slowly but surely squeezed Mion's neck. Mion put her hands onto mine. I looked at her fingers. 3 of the fingernails on her left hand looked as ugly as mine. Mion? What's this? Tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't have to answer. She had the same scars as I did. She atoned as well. The way those wounds were healing looked the same as mine. So, did she get these wounds around the same time I did? It was unfair that only you had to go through that. It felt so bad. Mion started sobbing. I stood there petrified, still wringing Mion's neck. Since I found out you love Satoshi-kun, I really wanted you to be happy. Because it's always only you who has to suffer, even though we're twins. It didn't come out as a surprise to me that Mion might have also have loved Satoshi-kun as I did. We've always liked the same stuff, and even the same people. She was stupid enough to feel obligated towards someone like me. I told Granley to leave you and Satoshi-kun alone. I shouted at her. And she said she'd let you be if you atoned with sincerity. And you did. So we were supposed to live happily with him, but Satoshi-kun has gone away. That's terrible. That's... Damn. Mion isn't smart enough to shed crocodile tears. Those tears were real. Her tears dissolved my demon's anger, like how the sun melts ice. Believe me, Shion, I really don't know why Satoshi-kun disappeared. Neither Granny nor the Sonozaki family have anything to do with it. Granny forgave you, so she would never do anything to him. Mion, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt you? I took my hands off her neck and held her instead. I'm not hurt. You've been hurt a lot more than me, haven't you?
No.
I shouted at the demon in my mind. I believed in Mion. I had been convinced it was the Sonozaki family that made Satoshi-kun disappear. But Mion denied it, while shedding tears. Between her and me, her tears are more convincing than any words. So I'd believe in her. It absolutely wasn't the Sonozaki family that made him disappear. So, do you really think that Satoshi-kun disappeared because of Oshiro-sama's curse? I don't believe in curses! And Mion didn't do it! If it wasn't the curse of the Sonozaki family, who demoned him away? I don't know! I just know it's not Mion! It's not the Sonozaki family because Mion says so! That's stupid, Shion. Are you going to ignore Satoshi-kun's voice? I know! You don't have to remind me, demon. I can hear his voice. I know he's mumbling with an ambivalent expression like he's always used to do. Even though he knows help won't come. I'll help him no matter what. I'll save him if he's alive. I'll avenge him if he's dead. But Mion didn't do it. You just want to take it out on somebody. It doesn't matter who. But I'm Shion, not a demon. You're only a part of me. Don't try to take control. Fuck off. Don't ever show up again. The demon faded away. My body went limp and I fell to the floor while holding Mion. Shion, are you alright? I'm alright now, Mion. Why are we two different individuals? Why can't we just be one? Stop it. We've asked ourselves that so many times. There's no answer. I'm Shion and you're Mion. That's just how it is. I don't care if I'm Mion or Shion. I just want to be one and equal with you. There's nothing we can do. You have the demon on your back. You're destined to become the successor. And we can't change that. I don't want that. I don't need a demon. I don't want it. I'm not a demon. I'm not. I want to be a human like you. Mion is a demon and Shion is a human. Even though we're twins, there's a difference between us. Was it impossible for humans to live with demons after all? It should be possible, because they did it before. That's the legend of Inamizawa. Humans and demons lived in harmony together, as Oishiro-sama watched over them. Mion, Shion, Satoshi-kun, demons, humans. Oishiro-sama's curse, the series of mysterious deaths, Satoshi-kun's disappearance. We fell asleep while holding each other. While holding everything. Okay.
So, Shion also has a demon.
Well, it's theorized that the demon possesses people. Damn. 3 notes. Okay. Let's go through the notes and then theorize. Alright. I saw Mio Takano a few times after that. At her core, she was fascinated with the bizarre, and she had an insatiable curiosity that was just as strong. I have to remind myself not to take her story too seriously. Otherwise, I might start believing that Satoshi-kun disappeared because of the curse. She talks about the dark history of Inamizawa a lot. It's all very interesting. Her theories are based on nothing but conjecture, but some of her intuition covers facts that only members of the Sonozaki family would know. She thinks that Oishiro-sama's curse is the continuation of these ancient rituals. In other words, she believes that the curse is performed by religious fanatics. According to her theory, a religious cult once existed in Anamizawa, and the 3 families stemmed from it. She believes that they are operating behind the scenes in order to revive the dignity of the Onikafuji people, which was lost during the Meiji era. Mio-san's theories are far-reaching, and looking at them on a larger scale, they end up making a lot of sense. But they can't offer any explanation for Satoshi-kun's disappearance when using them on a smaller one. Her theories are just too broad. Okay. I exchanged information with Oishi every now and then. We'd each expect new leads from each other, but neither of us had any luck. I no longer believe the tip that Satoshi-kun might have headed to Tokyo. It was clearly bogus anyway. Though I can't befriend Oishi, he's been fair about the deal. He alone has been serious about uncovering any new information. Oishi's sources are quite reliable, so whenever I found some dubious tip, I checked with him to see if it was valid. My meetings with him have diminished in frequency since he's been assigned to new cases. Eventually we stopped meeting entirely. Oishi stopped investigating, and I reached the limits of my sources of information. People now think that Satoshi-kun's disappearance was a supernatural phenomenon called demoning away. In Anamizawa, they refer to his disappearance as him having transferred, and nobody will talk about it otherwise. I don't like the way that phrase is used to erase him. During the upheaval surrounding Oishiro-sama's curse in 1982, I was pulled this way and that by new leads on Satoshi-kun's disappearance. Every time I found information that looked promising, I kept changing my theories. But that also became an incredible burden on me. It wore me down plenty on its own. The fatigue was harsh, but it also provided a very kind acceptance. Bit by bit, it soothed away my anger, bit by bit, it soothed away the anger, sadness, and doubt that wore me down. I'll never forget Satoshi-kun. I'll never try to forget him and move on. I constantly repeated those to myself in my head. I repeated them to keep my memories of Satoshi-kun from fading too, over and over. For the sake of my fun memories of Satoshi-kun, together with my fear and my sadness, I repeated them forever and ever. Okay. Not a whole lot to go off of based on the tips, but it does explain some of the relationships that stem from Shion and the others. I'm curious if Shion is going to try to reach out to Reina.
About what she said?
Yeah. See what Reina knows about the curse.
Because we're getting a different side of the story now.
Because now it's hard to believe that the Sonozakis are responsible for that.
Yeah.
At least for that particular case.
Especially since Mion put herself through the same torture that Shion went through and wanted her to be happy.
And she says that not even Oreo
knows.
The leader of the Sonozakis, the one who knows just about everything because everyone tells her she doesn't know.
But There is a side of me that thinks that Mion
Is lying?
is lying.
I don't believe she is. I mean, she convinced me pretty good that she's not lying.
She's convincing to me, but there is that chance.
I'm not saying there's no chance. I'm saying I'm convinced that she is not lying. And that she just doesn't know.
So who did it?
That is the question. Was he really demoned away?
Or was someone else behind it?
Is a third party involved? But who? Who would be involved? And what would be the
Someone
motive?
that wants justice but can't get it?
What do you mean by justice?
Like, a police officer?
You think Oishi went outside
Of the law?
outside of the law?
To get these cases justice? Well, no, because that wouldn't work for the second year. It wouldn't work for the Hojo family.
Yeah. Because no one disappeared on the second year.
Yeah.
Both were dead.
And the wife wrote a suicide note on the third year.
And drowned herself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's theorized that she's the one that demoned away. But she threw herself into the swamp where her body can't be found. So it's theorized that she demoned away.
Yeah.
Because no one could find her body. But all you have is a suicide note.
And then on Keiichi's? Or Koichi's?
Keiichi.
Keiichi. On his year, Oishi is trying to get to his... On the first time, he's in a phone booth. And Oishi is trying to get to him. Wasn't he?
We don't know who was trying to get to him. It was clearly a group of people.
No, he called Oishi, didn't he?
Did he? I think he did. Because
He called Oishi and he was freaking out.
Yeah, I don't... Because, like, I'm remembering stuff from the first chapter that don't add up. Like, the note that Keiichi leaves before he runs off and ends up encountering Oyashiro-sama. Because then he says, I see him. I see Oyashiro-sama before he dies. Now, is that a delusion from the drug? From some sort of drug? Because
they were trying to
Reina
inject
and Mion were trying to inject something into him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when after he killed them, he saw a van pull up and a group of people walked out and tried chasing him down. So, there are people involved. It is not entirely spiritual, because there are actual human beings, whether they're controlled or not, is in the air, likely not. It could be a spiritual aspect behind it. Like Takanos theorized, it could be a cult. It could be a religious cult.
So, what if it's a cult that is not amongst the three families?
A splinter group.
Basically. Because she said that the three families was based off of this cult.
And they're trying to imitate.
They're trying to imitate these deaths.
That kind of makes sense. That's not a bad theory.
That would explain why Rika gets killed. Shion and Mion end up dying. I don't know about the
circumstances.
The circumstances there.
It's a bit hazy.
Because both of them were found dead, but one, crawled up onto his bed.
And it's like, if it is a third party that is repeating these deaths, why in the first chapter do Reina and Mion go after Keiichi? That's the thing. It's chapter 1 that throws off a lot of theories.
But Reina and Mion went after... Maybe they were trying to protect him because they knew he was being targeted.
Fake his death?
Maybe.
But then why would they go to all the trouble of tormenting him and being crazy?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. You're right.
Because I can see a theory of third-party religious cult, and Oishi is merely part of it.
Yeah.
Because it would explain, or someone within the investigation team is part of it that would explain the removal of part of Keiichi's letter at the end of chapter 1. Because that's never explained who did that. Because his whole Keiichi's whole testimony was basically erased at the end, so no one was able to figure out his perspective.
I think it's a third party, but there are some things that can't be explained.
Yeah, there's still stuff that's not adding up.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're convinced at this point it's not the Sonozakis that are enacting the curse. It's been convenient for them.
Yeah.
It has certainly been convenient for them.
That makes sense why Oreo doesn't want these deaths to spread. Because she's worried about the view on the village.
Yeah,
that is actually her goal.
Because the Sonozakis are prime suspect for that, considering the motive makes sense.
You know, having a torture chamber in your house doesn't...
Yeah, but that's just a dark history. It's just a dark history. But then chapter 2, Mion goes nuts and then starts torturing Keiichi in the torture room. And it's like, what are... I need to go back and figure out what these triggers were. Because there's clear triggers that set people off and then the demon possesses them. And then they get to the point where they just start murdering. And Shion was able to snap out of it because she saw something that was able to trigger her so badly in the reverse.
Yeah. If she wouldn't have been triggered in the reverse, she probably would have killed Mion.
She would have killed Mion, probably.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the same type of... this trigger with the demon of being possessed, so to speak. And it gets to the point where it almost always results in murder.
Yeah.
Whether Keiichi's doing it or someone else.
It's just a lot, man.
It's a lot.
It's making my brain hurt sometimes. But yeah.
And it also kind of makes sense with the trend they were going with the deaths. I noticed that, and I figured out what the 5th is. Because it goes from enemy to traitor, to dissident, to relative of the traitor, to outsider. The severity of how opposed what you would define as an enemy. It's the severity goes less and less.
Okay,
From a clear enemy to someone that was yours but they became enemy, to someone who didn't care, to someone who just happened to be a relative of a traitor. And then where do you go from there but outsider?
Yeah.
Whether it be Tomatake or Keiichi.
Okay, but the deaths are always even.
Yes.
Is another thing that we have to...
Tomatake is always the one that dies.
Yep.
The one that gets spirited away or demoned away is typically Keiichi. I think it's supposed to be Keiichi.
And then... But Takano dies.
And the other thing, Rika dies.
Rika dies.
4 deaths. Even.
Hold on.
Who else? Who else
Didn't
is supposed...
Shion?
But I don't know if Shion's supposed to die, if that was more circumstantial. In terms of consistent deaths, aside from the Tatarigoroshi arc, where Keiichi's the only one that lives because of his wish for all of Hinamizawa to end, and everyone to die. Which everyone does die, except for Keiichi. And he has that mystical prediction power where you can just say, you're gonna die, and then they die. Because then that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And we have to think about that, and that's just way too coincidental. Because no one can get in his thoughts except the demon. Maybe the demon is body jumping, and it's oh, you want to think that? Alright, let me jump into someone who can do that for you. And it's really weird. Because then, think about it. Another person that disappears. Kumagai.
Yes, Kumagai.
Oishi's partner disappears.
So that's
it
5.
wasn't
Hold on.
It wasn't explained.
That's 5.
Yes, Kumagai. I don't know if I remember confirming that Kumagai had disappeared once. I don't know. I need to go back to see how often that happens. But I don't know how consistent that is.
Didn't you say it explained why this is happening over and over again?
Well, I explained how like the severity lessens and lessens, that it would make sense that outsider is the next stage.
Yeah.
And the question is, where do you go from there? Where do you go from outsider? What's a less severity than outsider?
So
you start killing your own people?
Hold on. Here's the thing. You know how it said that it's to quench Orishiro-sama's anger,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What if the body was never presented to the swamp to cure his anger,
And more killing had to be done.
and his anger was quenched by killing the entire village? Because the gas came from the swamp.
Yes. Although it's theorized that it's natural, and it happens every year. It happened every year after that happened. I mean, that was confirmed.
Okay, but it happens every year because his anger can't be quenched. Because there's nobody to quench it.
Mm-hmm. And it does beg the question, and Shion said it herself. And when she said that, I'm like, that's a good point. Who is Oyashiro-sama? What does he do? What type of blessings, what type of punishments does he dole
get?
out?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know yet who even Oyashiro-sama is. All we know is that he watched over the demons and humans living together, and then he gets angry when someone tries to disrupt that.
Yep.
I mean, clearly you could use the demon as an allegory for the Sonozaki family at this point.
Yeah.
The demons are more of an allegory. Or a metaphor, whatever you want to use.
But I think that's another key thing, is his anger was not quenched, so therefore...
Because the uncle was buried. He was never put in there. Tomatake died, probably put into the trunk of Takano's car. Takano dies. No idea why.
And found it in the...
In the oil drum.
Yep. And...
It's really hard to say.
Keiichi never is thrown into the swamp.
True.
There's no, like, note of that.
So it kind of makes sense that Oishiro-sama's anger was never quenched, so he destroyed the whole village. That is his divine punishment.
Yeah.
And that is him doling it out. And it's weird that it happens just annually. It's like, you did not quench my anger again!
Dead.
Befoul this land and anything that decided to live in it again.
Yep.
I mean, these are all good theories, good conjectures. And I think we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the truth.
Yep.
I think we're getting a good idea of what we're trying to look at. And at least who might be involved. I mean, we have a solid theory that it's a third party.
Yeah.
Like,
Who?
Who is the third party? Who's behind it? What's the motive?
Nope. We have no idea.
How does it involve anybody else? I'm sure we'll find out more in the episodes to come.
Yep.
But we'll see y'all in those in the next one.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.